What's going on, everybody? So the message of the day is find what you're looking for, right? Find what you're looking for, it'll look for you. In life, right, it's very important that we go after the things that we truly desire, right? Especially if it's something of substance, right? So, for example, when people don't go after what they truly desire in their heart, I start noticing that we still magnetize ourselves towards the things that we want, but we get it in other ways unconsciously. And it's not as good as it would be if we went about it intensely, right? So, for example, a person might truly desire love, right? They might have felt a lack of love in their life throughout their childhood or throughout their teenage years or throughout even adulthood, right? And a person could be in denial and trying to trick themselves into believing that they don't really care to be loved, right? And I've seen women do this particularly, right, where they'll become extremely career oriented and try to pretend like love is important. Or someone else, it could be having children, right? Someone else, it could be healing. Like it's just a lot of different things. But let's just say a person is missing love, right? And they're trying to trick themselves into believing it's not that important. It's like we'll still attract these things into our lives unconsciously, right? So a person may try to distract themselves by doing other things instead of just going after the love that they feel is missing. And then it's like, well, what we end up indulging in other activities or other things that aren't as beneficial to our lives. A person can trick themselves into believing they don't really care to be loved, right? And then next you know, they'll start abusing drugs, right? Or they'll start dealing with a bunch of different men, right? And you could go a lot of different ways with this, right? But the things that we end up going after unconsciously usually are not as beneficial to our lives as it would have been if we just been honest with ourselves, right? So this whole concept is about not depriving yourself. And for me personally, I've had the luxury of having family members who deprive themselves a lot, and it bothered me so much growing up. But now that I'm older, I see that it was truly a benefit, because sometimes when you see people doing things that's not good for their lives, you see how damaging it is, and you see how destructive it is and detrimental it is. And the whole time, it's like you want to help them or want to guide them, but people are who they are. You know, there's something I had to learn, just how to accept people for who they are and how to make the changes within myself and be okay with that. You know what I'm saying? But for me, I just want to share this message because it's okay to find what you're looking for, right? You know, so it's like, why would we want to deprive ourselves of what we want? The only time you want to deprive yourself of things that you want is because you're practicing discipline, right? And you stand down for the come up, right? If you're trying to stay away from things like being lustful, or staying away from eating certain foods, right? Or staying away from gambling, or staying away from dealing with women or prostitutes and strippers, like certain things you want to stay away from because you know that it's no good for you long term, and it's just something you may want to indulge in here and there, right? But overall, this whole concept is not necessarily pertaining to that. It's more so just, you know, acknowledging the importance of accepting what we want and being honest with ourselves, and going towards it. Because when you don't go towards it intentionally, it'll come towards you unintentionally. And then when it comes towards us, we tend to accept these things, right? So how can we accept it when it comes towards us, but we don't accept it to ourselves to go towards it, right? Think about it. So it's all about being honest with yourself, right? And it's okay to be honest with yourself. It's okay to acknowledge what maybe you didn't have in your life and what you desire, what you value, right? I think a lot of times when I notice people depriving themselves is usually people who have very avoidant personalities, or very non-confrontational, very avoidant style of handling things, right? So people tend to have this history of not acknowledging themselves in a proper manner, and then they start to repeat this in other ways with things that are extremely important, right? We only have one guaranteed life to live. This is a very delicate experience, right? You don't want to play around with your time here on this universe and miss out on opportunities to love yourself better, miss out on opportunities to live a better life, right? Why would you want to waste your time, right? So be effective with your time, be effective with yourself, be effective with your existence, and be honest with yourself, right? So we're going to go towards the things we want, and when it comes towards us, we're going to be aware, we're going to acknowledge it, and we're going to be careful. Find what you're looking for.